Welcome back to Source My Gadgets TV. So the prices of Android devices have been skyrocketing over the years, and it has now gotten to a point when Android devices are competing with Apple devices in pricing. Who can remember when back then, like, Apple used to be the expensive one, but then now we have amazing Android phones on the market that I'm sure anybody will want. However, the price is hindering you. Well, today I bring you amazing tips of things you should look out for when buying a used Android phone. Now, first of all, before we go into the major tips, I know, be patient. I just want you to know that when you're in the market looking for used phones, there are two types of used phones you'll probably come across, and they are refurbished phones and actual used phones. Now, refurbished phones are phones that are refurbished by the manufacturer. So these are phones that probably had issues before and then they were taken back to the manufacturers, worked on and brought out as semi-new phones, while used phones are the phones you get straight out of the pockets of someone else. Now, the good thing about refurbished phones is that some of these phones come with warranty from the manufacturers. Some of them, not all of them, so be aware of that. Now, here are the 5 tips you'll be waiting for. So the first thing you probably want to look out for or ask when you're buying a used phone from someone is ask the seller for the original receipt of the phone. Now, I know some of you be like, where am I supposed to find the receipt, or why should I keep my receipt for that long? Well, it's very important you get the original receipt of a phone. That shows you that the phone wasn't stolen or that there's no fishy or funny business going on with the phone you're buying, and it could get you out of trouble in the future. However, I understand that some people might not keep their original receipts. You can also try asking for the original box of the phone, and if the person is able to present that to you, then you can check for the IMEI number on the box of the phone and then compare it to the IMEI on the actual phone. This way you know that this phone isn't stolen, this person actually bought this phone or was gifted this phone, or you know that this phone is legit. You can easily dial *#06# on any Android device to find out the IMEI. Now, the next thing you want to look out for is to check the Android phone thoroughly for any physical damage. This is very, very important when buying a phone. Don't just rush through the process. Make sure you check front, make sure there are no scratches on the screen, check the back, make sure there are no dents or any possible scratches that could cause problems for you in the future. You want to make sure that whatever used phone you're getting is as new and neat as possible, unless you don't mind. I mean, you definitely find used phones that have been through a bit more and it shows on their body, but they will definitely come at a way cheaper price than the cleaner used phones. Also, if the phone you're buying comes with a tampered glass on the screen, make sure you take off the tampered glass to look closely at the actual screen of the phone to ensure there are no scratches or dents or anything that could cause a possible problems for you with the screen of that phone. Now, the next thing you want to do is keep an eye on the battery percentage. Now, you don't want to buy a phone that has a bad battery, because sooner than you know, you probably need to go and start looking for who would fix the battery, change the battery, buy a new battery. So you don't want that on a used phone you're just buying. You want to buy a phone that is good enough that the battery can last you at least for the next year or even 2. So a typical lithium-ion battery in an Android phone lasts for 2 years. So depending on how the previous owner used it, whatever battery you are using should be strong enough to last you at least a year on your used phone. So what you want to do with the phone is, I know you might not have a lot of time to test out the battery for as long as you would like, but at least try using the phone, running applications on it for like 5 to 10 minutes and see if the battery life depreciates fast. Then warning signs should definitely go up in your head. But if it seems to be working and functioning normally like any phone, then you should definitely get that phone. But if you notice any problems with the Android phone's battery, what you probably want to do is, if you really like the phone that you're getting and you realize in other areas it doesn't have any problems, then you can negotiate with the seller and maybe split the cost of getting a new good battery for the phone, or negotiate and tell the seller to replace the battery before you purchase it. Another thing you like to find out is if the phone has undergone any previous repairs. If you forget every other tip on this list, please make sure you remember this one, because it's very important. Most phones that have been worked on have lesser lifespan than used phones that have never been opened before. So it's very important you ask your seller, has this phone been worked on, so that when your phone stops maybe months along the line, you know that this was what happened before and it has been worked on before, so you wouldn't be taken by surprise. Now, if you don't trust your seller, you can check around the edges of the phone to see if there are any slight openings or unusual openings. That's how you know a phone that the screen has probably been removed for internal work to be done on it. So please make sure you check for this. Now, one more thing you want to do is check if all the internal components of the phone are working. Patience is key when buying a used phone. You don't want to rush through this process because you might end up with a phone that as soon as you get home, it stops working. And we don't want that to happen. So what you want to do now to test the internal components of your phone is try out the power and volume rockers. You want to ensure that the power button is working, the volume rockers are working as well. Also check the charging ports. Connect the phone to a charger. Make sure that the phone is charging normally. Ensure that the charging port is not shaking or it doesn't have any problems. You also want to test out the front and rear cameras. Now this is very important. Make sure you take pictures outside. Make sure you take notes to see if there are any dirt or anything in the camera, if there's any blur. Make sure that your cameras are working fine. Now you can also test out the proximity sensor by making calls and the ambient light sensor by switching on automatic brightness and covering the phone's top. Last but definitely not least, you want to check the phone's bottom firing speaker. So most Android phones come with speakers at the bottom. Make sure that there are no weird sounds coming from the speaker and it functions perfectly. Now there are a few other factors you should consider when buying a used phone, and they are: ask how old the device is. It's important you ask the seller how old the device they are selling to you is. The newer the device, the higher chance of it to last. You don't want to buy an overly old phone that has been through years and years of use and is probably at the end of its lifespan. And also, by asking how old the phone is, you can also find out if the phone still has a warranty. So you can also use the phone's IMEI to find out if the phone is still covered by warranty. Next, you might also want to check the hardware of the phone. This can help you spot a fake phone, like some of Samsung Galaxy's clones that are out there. Yes, some people have been sold clones of a phone. You know those phones they use for simulations in the phone store when you go? It's not always the actual phone they want to sell to you that is on display. Those phones are clones. So some people might have stolen those clones or gotten their hands on those clones, however they did, and then they sell it to you and you get home and your phone is not working. Please make sure you check the hardware of the phone. Also, it's very important to ask for the original accessories of the phone. Yeah, I know it's possible for the original chargers to spoil all of that, but if you can get the original accessories of the phone, that would be very helpful. But if you can't, it's fine, but make sure you ask. Please remember that the best used Android phones are those that haven't been used for more than 18 months. Like I said, the newer the phone, the higher chance it will last longer for you. Buying an Android phone definitely comes with a lot of trust problems. Now, buying a second-hand Android phone comes with its cons, especially if you cannot find a trusted vendor or seller to buy from. And if you are not aware of the things we have listed on this list, you might get scammed. But not to worry, we at Source My Gadgets have taken out the time to find trustworthy vendors with good quality used phones that you can buy today. If you're looking to buy a good quality used Android phone, you should definitely send us a DM via any of our social media platforms and we'll be sure to respond to you immediately and help you get the phone you desire. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, definitely like it, subscribe and share to all your friends. And you should definitely turn on our post notifications so you don't miss any of our quality content coming your way.